Ancient stories often feel distant and irrelevant, Kalin, but what if I told you there's a tale of espionage, assassination, and female empowerment that rivals any modern thriller? The story of Judith from ancient religious texts completely changed how I think about historical narratives.
That's fascinating, Pappy. A female hero from ancient times who used strategy and cunning rather than traditional military might. Tell me more about how this story unfolds.
Well, picture this. You've got this powerful Assyrian king, Nebuchadnezzar, who sends his general, Holofernes, on basically an ancient world conquest. This guy is devastating everything in his path with an enormous army, and they're closing in on this strategic town called Bethulia.
So, this town must have been pretty important strategically proper.
Exactly. Bethulia was essentially the gateway to Jerusalem. If it fell, the whole region would be vulnerable. And things get desperate fast. They're running out of water, morale is crumbling, and the town leaders are about ready to surrender if divine help doesn't arrive within days.
That's when Judith enters the picture. What makes her such a compelling character?
Oh man, she's fascinating. Here's this wealthy widow described not just as beautiful, but also incredibly wise and devoted to her faith. And she does something pretty remarkable. She calls out these male leaders for their lack of faith, basically saying, who are you to put God on a timeline?
You know what's interesting about that? In ancient times, for a woman to challenge male authority like that would have been absolutely shocking.
Right. And she doesn't just talk, she develops this hazardous plan. She dresses up beautifully, takes only her maid with her, and walks straight into the enemy camp. The psychological warfare aspect of this is just brilliant.
The risks she took were enormous. One wrong move and she'd be discovered. How did she manage to get close to Holofernes?
Well, this is where it gets fascinating. She uses her beauty and intelligence to gain his trust, playing to his ego while maintaining this perfect balance of seeming loyal to the Assyrians while staying true to her faith. She gets invited to this private banquet in his tent, which was precisely what she was counting on.
That must have been a taut moment, being alone with the enemy general in his tent.
Absolutely intense. She waits until he's completely drunk and passes out, and then, after praying for strength, she takes his own sword and beheads him. But here's the wild part. She and her maid carry his head back to Bethulia in a food bag.
The psychological impact of that must have been enormous on both sides.
That's exactly right. When the Israelites see what she's done, it completely transforms them. They go from being ready to surrender to launching this surprise attack that sends the Assyrian army into chaos. Without their leader, this supposedly invincible force falls apart.
And what happens to Judith after this incredible victory?
Now, this is really fascinating. She makes the powerful choice to remain unmarried for the rest of her life. In ancient times, a wealthy widow who had just saved her people would have had enormous pressure to remarry, but she chose independence.
That decision really adds another layer to her character. She's not just brave in battle, but in how she lives her life.
Exactly. And you know what really strikes me about this whole story? It's how it challenges our assumptions about power. Here's this massive army defeated not by traditional military might, but by the courage and cleverness of one woman who refused to give up hope.
The themes feel surprisingly modern: faith versus military power, individual courage against oppression, and the strength of unexpected heroes.
And maybe that's why this story has endured for so long. It's not just about one ancient act of bravery, It's about how change can come from unexpected places and how sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't an army, but unwavering faith combined with clever action.
In today's world, where we often feel powerless against huge systems and problems, that's a pretty relevant message.
You know what? That's precisely it. It's a reminder that sometimes the most significant changes come through unexpected people and unexpected means. You need the wisdom to recognize the opportunity and the courage to seize it.